There's a very thin but clear distinction between somebody who's a really, really good friend and somebody who's a hater who's holding you back. They look mostly the same, they act mostly the same because at the same time, you wouldn't be friends with them if they weren't. But you have to be very careful and measure the data on whether this person is one or the other. I'll give some specific examples here. I had a friend recently who was more of a hater. This is the type of person, this is what a hater actually looks like when they're disguised as a friend. This is the type of person who literally only ever says what you're doing wrong, or says that you're acting stupid, or says you're making the wrong choice, but doesn't give you the solutions. They simply state you're wrong, or you're doing this the wrong way, or you're not that good at this. They don't give you the solutions, the directions. And they could be right, they could be wrong, but if it's all just negativity getting sent in, your brain's gonna stop filtering that out. And so each time that you speak to that person, you're gonna already come in with a negative set of a negative frame, a negative mental understanding of how the conversation might go, what they're likely to say, the negativity that they're likely to bring onto you. And it's very difficult to break out of that frame. Not only because they're not breaking out of theirs, but because you are going to be more susceptible to it because it's a pattern that you've seen in the past. So your brain, your reticular activation system, doesn't only apply to your vision, it applies to your mind as well. When you consistently hear things over and over, and you're fed this data over and over, there's a little bit of confirmation and recency bias that goes on, where now you say, this is what's going to happen, and this is how this is, and this is how this person is, because not only were they like that the last time I spoke to them, but they've also been like that in the past. So it's very hard to break these patterns that your brain will bias towards. Now let's talk about what a real friend looks like. And again, remember, I said they're very similar. A real friend is going to very consistently challenge you. A real friend does not tell you that you're right all the time. They're going to tell you that you're wrong and that you're messing up and that you can do things better. But it's going to be in a way that not only gets you to think, for one, but for two, actually gives you some potential solutions to the problem. I've had previous mentors in the past who they went from good friend, good mentor with solutions and solid, honest feedback to just straight up negativity. And I think there's a lifespan with whether it's mentors and certain friends as well. Sometimes you're not going to lose these friends over the years, but sometimes you'll have to. If that ratio just plummets, right? If the ratio of positivity to negativity always seems to lean towards the negative over and over and over again, there's only so much you can do. You can tell them, hey, this is bad. I don't like this. And of course, you got to give people chances. You don't just immediately cut it out necessarily, unless you have a really bad gut feeling. But as time goes on, and you've already told them, this is basic boundaries, right? If it keeps happening the same way without any change in behavior and without you getting those positives again, that's the time you need to cut them off, whether it's a mentorship relationship, whether it's your boss, whether it's a good friend. Maybe it's an employee. It could be any of these factors. If you're seeing mathematically that it's no longer making sense, or maybe you just get a bad feeling every time, or you just hear the same thing over and over and over again, that's when it's time to cut your losses, move on to the next thing. Because our time is valuable. If there's one message I've wanted to get across in all of my videos on this channel, it's that our time is valuable. And if we let ourselves consistently bias towards these actions that are not valuable, we can expect that we're going to cyclically, over and over and over, experience these same exact actions. And we're going to get the results that come from these actions. Now, for you to be wise and actually take the advice from one of those real friends, that takes a lot of self-reflection, understanding, wisdom, humility. Because most of the time when somebody delivers this news to you that you're doing something not as well as you could, your brain automatically, instantly goes to fight or flight. And you start to say, oh, no, I'm not like that. I don't do that. Like, why are you picking on me? You have to be wise to break past that and say, what do you mean by that? Like, why does it feel like you're being negative right now? Why does it feel like you're being a hater right now? Why do you say these things? That's what you got to do. You got to ask more questions. You got to ask why. And if you get an answer of why, that's what leads you to your actual direction. You know, it's not like they're always just going to be telling you what's wrong and giving you the exact direction. You have to ask more about it. You have to ask why. You have to be humble enough to understand this is my friend. This is a teaching moment, whether it is or it isn't. This could be a teaching moment. I have to ask, I have to dig deeper and say, okay, why are you saying this to me? Why are you acting in a way that I find to be very uncomfortable, very challenging, and overall negative? And that's why I say it's a very thin line, because a hater will also give you reasons why. But over time, you're going to find that the hater's advice and the reasons why are simply going to be less valuable. You try them out, you implement them, doesn't work. So you take the good, you get rid of the rest, and you maintain a balanced perspective. Don't get one-sided in this life. There isn't a correct answer to just about anything. Mathematics, laws of physics, sure, correct answers. Almost anything else, though. It's like Jeff Bezos said, like, if it's not physics, it doesn't really matter. It's not a rule. It can be broken. Now, I'm not saying you should, like, look up to Jeff Bezos as if he's some overlord that has all the answers. I'm not saying that by any means whatsoever. But that's the mentality that grows companies. That's the mentality that builds empires and allows you to create change in the world. I'm not arguing whether the impact that Amazon has had is positive or negative. There's absolutely positives and there's absolutely negatives to it. But until you've achieved even a modicum of the success in any area of your life that Jeff Bezos has with Amazon, right? You can't say that what he did was right or wrong. You just simply can't. You can never get into the mind of another person. You can't absorb their brain into your own and make decisions based off of exactly how they would decide. And you can't know exactly what they're thinking. You also can't know the subconscious reasons behind what they're saying and what it actually means. This is why therapy even exists in the first place, because we're essentially communicating with our therapist, with that guide, this is what I feel, this is the negativity I'm experiencing, these are the challenges I'm facing. And they essentially have to do their best to dig under the surface to listen to what your subconscious is actually saying, not the words that come out of your mouth. Luckily, when you dig deeper and when you say, why do you say this? Why are you acting this way? Why are you throwing these things at me? When you dig deeper and you do that, you can get a lot closer to the actual reasons why, because the subconscious starts to become a little bit more conscious when a person is asked and interrupted and asked to say, why did I say that? Why do I think that? Do I really harbor these feelings of resentment towards you? Or am I just... does this idea fill my mind with friction? It's supposed to be a well-oiled machine up here. It's supposed to have no grinding gears. It's supposed to be smooth. Doesn't mean it's going to be frictionless, because in order to have torque, you need some friction. But not everything should be this challenging moment. And so if you're seeing overwhelming majority experience being negative in any area of your life, this is not just about your friends or your mentors, or it can also be about the career you're pursuing, the books you're reading, the news you're watching. That's a big one. That's a big topic. The people you listen to, of course, outside of your friends, the podcasts, the events you go to. All in all, the sensory inputs, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, the sensory inputs that are entering your mind and your physiology are going to determine, with a very, very strong predictability, how you're going to act. And so if you change your inputs, you can then change the way that the gears turn in your mind, and then you can change your outputs. Sometimes it takes an extremely strong pattern interrupt. Like if you go out and you're shy and you want to talk to a girl or something, sometimes you just have to say, oh man, screw it, I'm doing it no matter freaking what. Or else it won't happen, right? If you don't take action immediately, a lot of times, and break that pattern, whatever you're thinking about won't happen. But when you say, I'm going to make this video right now, I'm going to go talk to this girl right now, I'm going to go for the run right now, I'm going to wake up right now at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever it is, something different from your schedule, something new, something unique, that simple act of breaking your pattern will bring you so many new answers. So if your friends aren't consistently breaking your pattern, they're not real friends. And if they're not breaking their own patterns, they're not great friends. And they might be haters. So as far as that subject, I think that's about all I have to say for this video. I got to get back to work. So, leave a comment below. What do you think about this? What are your opinions on who you have around you right now and the sensory inputs that you're taking in, whether it's books, TV, media, friends, family, other influences? How are those affecting you, whether it's positive or negative? And how could you change things to make things more positive? Or how could you change things to make them more negative? Leave that comment. Like the video. Subscribe. Share it if you feel so inclined. I would love for these videos to get some more traction in the areas where I want them to go. This isn't just for musicians. This isn't just about drums or anything like that. This is about finding the people who are stuck in those challenges of having these bad friends or having these bad mental patterns, having these negative experiences that seem like they constantly happen, those people are who my channel is for. And the reason why is because that's been me for much, and maybe I can even say most of my life. Even though I've accomplished so many great things, I've achieved so many of my goals musically, spiritually, financially, business-wise. I've achieved so many of my goals, and yet there's been times in my life where I've felt like none of it really mattered, or like every day it was still a challenge and still a negative experience. A lot of the reason for that was my friends and my mentors and the people I surrounded myself with. So, and the books. And the books is a big thing. And the more you understand yourself and how you respond to things, how you learn, how you absorb information, whether you're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, the more you understand those things and the patterns in your life, everything will make sense. And it'll become a very clear picture of how you can move forward. Take action and do not let yourself get to that place of constantly resisting. If you got a bunch of friends who are yes men, you got only the worst friends in the world. Yes men are the worst. Absolutely the worst. Similarly, if you have a bunch of no men around you and they're constantly telling you that's not possible, you can't do that, that's the worst. Because the Earth's history, I'm about to wrap this up, I promise, but in the Earth's history, pretty much everything that you see in front of you in this modern world wasn't possible to the people of the previous generation. You're holding a phone in your hand or you're watching this on a laptop, that was not possible. When you had the first cell phone, like maybe not the first cell phone, but the Nokia with the keyboard or whatever, the BlackBerry, this was not possible. So don't let your small thinking affect how big the world actually is. And that's what I have to say. Like, comment, subscribe. Talk soon.